Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today's Countdown to Columbia webinar is hosted by Columbia Housing. Today's agenda, we'll start by introducing the members of our team who've joined today's presentation, as well as our role that the department plays within the Columbia community. We'll then take you through the logistics of move-in and the dates and packing tips and step-by-step overview of what to expect and how to arrive, as well as some resources for parking in New York City. We know that can be troublesome. The presentation will close with a reminder of important to-dos and other helpful information. Then we'll open up the presentation to any other questions that there may be. You may submit questions at any point during the presentation. Some questions may be answered over chat, while others may be selected for a live response, and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. Next, we'll go ahead and introduce our team. Since I'm already talking, I'll start with me. My name is Menli Mansu, and I'm the Executive Director of Operations and Systems here in Columbia Housing. And my must-have move-in item is packing cubes. I love them because they make everything organized. They make me happy inside.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lorena Prosco, and I am the Executive Director of Housing Services and Student Center Operations. Besides a great attitude, I would say to bring a Swiffer mop. I do like to keep things tidy in my place, so that's for me a must-have.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mia de Luis and I'm the manager of housing services. And I think for those rainy New York days, you really need a really big umbrella.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Cottrell. I'm an assistant director for housing systems here at Columbia Housing. My must-have move-in item is a good pair of headphones so you can focus on your work, kind of forget what's going on in such a busy city and all the things on campus, just to kind of have your own zone.
Okay, so then let's talk a little bit about Columbia Housing. So Columbia Housing provides on-campus housing for all eligible undergraduate Columbia College and engineering students. Our portfolio includes more than 30 buildings with a variety of amenities and layouts. We manage the physical buildings and student assignments process and partner with Columbia Residential Life, who oversees community building in the residential halls. Now, I am sure that you all are aware that check-in is almost here, so let's review the arrival times and dates. So we are so excited to meet you and welcome you to campus. Move-in activities will begin on Saturday, August 24th with a backdrop and international student check-in. Then on Sunday, August 25th, we'll have check-in for all other students. Backdrop approved students should expect to be on campus both days. On Saturday, you'll move your items into your room, and on Sunday, you'll return to complete the formal check-in. If you're unsure of your arrival date, check the housing portal. All important dates for check-in and beyond are available in our web calendar, which you can see by scanning the QR code on the screen. Since Mandy likes packing cubes so much, he will review some of the packing tips with you.
Thanks, Lorena. I'm back again. Before you arrive, you'll need to do some packing and planning. So please remember that your room is fully furnished and the space is limited for additional items. We recommend that students settle into their space before making any big purchases. This gives you an opportunity to determine if you really need any additional items. Another helpful resource is our What to Bring video. The video outlines some must-bring items, as well as items that could be purchased from a local store after you've arrived. You should also know that some items are prohibited in the residence halls. The most common prohibited items we see are coffee makers, candles, extension cords, and e-bikes. If you watch the video, you'll see our recommendations for alternatives to these prohibited items. You can learn more about what to bring and see the full list of prohibited items by scanning the QR code on the bottom of this slide. Next, we'll talk about move-in logistics, starting with backdrop. Backdrop. As a reminder, backdrop is only for students who have received approval. You can confirm your approval status in the housing portal. If you're participating in backdrop, remember that backdrop is your day to move all of your belongings into your room. When you return the following day for check-in, please do not bring more large items. Backdrop arrival times are assigned, and you'll have until 4 p.m. to unpack. You can't stay the night, and you'll need to return on Sunday for formal check-in. If you haven't done so already, please select a check-in time in the housing portal so that we know when to expect you on Sunday. Now, we'll cover the steps of backdrop. This is an overview of what you can expect when you come for backdrop day on Saturday, August 24th. Step 1 is to arrive at your assigned time. Moving is a complex logistical operation, and time slots have been assigned to allow us to manage the arrival of hundreds of students. We will adhere to arrival times, and late arrivals may result in your delayed move-in. Step 2 is to go to your unload zone. The location of your unload zone will vary by building, and we'll talk more about that later in the presentation. In your unload zone, you can temporarily park your car to unload your items into moving bins. Once you've unloaded, you'll need to find long-term parking. Step 3 is to go to your assigned location. At your bag drop welcome station, you'll be given instructions on how to access your room. Please make sure you have an ID, like your driver's license or passport. The location of bag drop welcome stations will vary again by building. Step 4 is to go to your building and your room. Elevators on bag drop day will be reserved for moving luggage and other items. You and your family should be prepared to take the stairs. Step 5 is to unpack. You're welcome to completely unpack your items and set up your room on bag drop day, or you could just move in your items and save decorating for Sunday. Step 6 is to return on Sunday. You cannot stay overnight on Saturday. Please return on Sunday to officially check into Columbia Housing as a resident. You won't be able to go through the unload zone again on Sunday. So once again, we remind you not to bring large items when you come back. Now, Lorena will tell you what to expect when you return for check-in.
Yes, thank you, Melanie. So these steps apply to check-in on Saturday for international students and Sunday for domestic students. Students who participate in backdrop should plan to start at step 3 of this process on Sunday. You'll notice that there are many similarities between these steps and the steps for backdrop day. Step number 1 is to arrive at your assigned time. Like backdrop, we will adhere to arrival times, and your late arrival may result in a delayed move-in. Step number 2 is to go to the unload zone. The location of your unload zone will vary by building. This is where you can temporarily park to unload your items. Step number 3 is to go to your assigned check-in station. Students who participated in backdrop should plan to start the check-in process at this step. The check-in station is where students will receive their Columbia ID. For most students, their Columbia ID will function as their room key. The location of your check-in station will vary by building. Please make sure you bring a government-issued ID like your driver's license or passport to the check-in station. Step number 4 is to go to your building and room. Like on backdrop day, elevators will be reserved for moving luggage and other items. You and your family should be prepared to take the stairs. Step number 5 is to complete the survey and the room conditioning report, or RCR. The RCR records the condition of the room and furniture when you move in to avoid any charges for damages when you move out. We strongly encourage to not skip this step. At this time, you'll also be prompted to take a brief survey about your experience. We read all the feedback we receive in the survey and use it to improve the check-in process. And the final step is to unpack and settle in. You can find more information about international and domestic check-in by scanning the QR codes on the screen. Now we can move on to talk about the Lion Pass. Every first-year student will also receive a Lion Pass. The Lion Pass is a digital document that lists your arrival time, building, and room number. The students will be notified on August 20th when the Lion Pass becomes available in the housing portal. You should be prepared to show the Lion Pass when you arrive. On-campus Wi-Fi and cellular service may be delayed due to the number of visitors, so we recommend taking a screenshot on your phone before arriving to campus. We also recommend sharing the screenshot with family members that will help you move in. Now I'll pass it back to Melanie to review the arrival instructions.
Thanks, Lorena. As we mentioned before, in the step-by-step overview, locations and unload zones will vary by building. Each building has its own arrival webpage with detailed instructions on where you'll need to go. The webpage also has a step-by-step video and a map graphic. It's important to follow the steps outlined on the page to ensure that you are arriving with the flow of traffic designated for your building. If you're arriving by public transit, you should plan to head to your arrival location on foot. All of these web pages are linked on the check-in landing page, which you can access by scanning the QR code at the bottom of this slide. Next, we can talk about parking in New York City. One of the most common questions we receive is, where can I park? Remember that we share the Morningside Heights community in streets with thousands of New York City residents and car owners. While metered parking and non-metered parking is available on nearby streets, parking is first come, first serve. As an alternative, you may want to consider parking in a local garage. The resources listed here can show you garages in the neighborhood around Columbia and may allow you to compare pricing and check availability. Please be aware that none of these garages or parking resources are affiliated with the university, and they're provided here as a courtesy only. We recommend that students and their families make a parking plan before arriving on campus. Scan the QR code to see the list of local garages. Now, we can take you through some important reminders and to-dos.
Yes, so please remember to arrive at your assigned time. It will make the move-in process a lot easier and smoother if you arrive on time. Be prepared to show your Lion Pass. You may want to take a screenshot before arriving to campus just in case. Important, the Student Mail Center will be closed on Saturday, August 24th and Sunday, August 25th. If the items that you shipped arrived before August 15th, they will likely be in your room when you arrive. Items that arrived after the package pre-delivery period ended will be available for pickup at the Student Mail Center or a satellite location. You'll receive pickup instructions from the Student Mail Center, which will reopen on Monday, August 26th. Finally, elevators will be reserved for use by our moving vendor for luggage and other large items. Be prepared to take the stairs. And if you haven't done so already, we have two important to-dos. Students approved for backdrop must select a check-in time on Sunday. This action can be completed through the housing portal. International students and students not participating in backdrop do not need to do this. You are assigned a check-in time. Students should also plan to have property insurance coverage either through their family homeowners insurance or a separate renter's insurance policy. You can see all of our check-in requirements and arrival tips in our website by scanning the QR code on the screen. Finally, we want to remind you of some helpful check-in resources. The first and most important resource available to you is the Columbia Housing website. All of the information presented here today lives on our website. We encourage the students and their families to explore the check-in web pages to learn more about the process. The housing website is an informative resource beyond check-in as well. You can learn more about the building that you'll be in, the policies and procedures for residential students, and other relevant information. We also post copies of our student communications to the news section of the website. So parents and families, this means you can read a copy of the housing announcements that your student receives, not only for check-in, but throughout the entire academic year. Everything on our website is available without a Columbia login. Another great resource is the Columbia Housing Portal. So students, at this point in your journey, you've probably visited the housing portal several times to submit the housing application or to find your room assignment. This information is available only to the student as it requires a Columbia login. The portal has a student-specific information related to building preferences, room assignments, arrival times, and more. We also recommend that you follow us on Instagram at Columbia Housing. We're active all year long and share tips and FAQs for check-in as well as other important housing operations like room selection. For questions and support, we recommend contacting the Harley Hospitality Desk. During academic periods, the Harley Desk is staffed 24/7 and can help you with housing questions, room blockouts, and more. Lastly, we'd like to invite you to the next webinar. On August 13, we're hosting another webinar about life in the residence halls. We'll talk about the amenities available about our residence halls, as well as other expectations and requirements for residential students.
So we got quite a few questions, and some of them are very common questions that we've gotten. So we can also answer a few of those live. So a few of them were about the student mail center and receiving packages and packages that might arrive after August 15th, where the pre-delivery is no longer in effect. So like Lorena Menley mentioned, the mail center will be closed on those check-in days. But if you have any large items arriving after that time period, you are more than welcome to come to the Hartley Hospitality Desk and rent a bin if you have a lot of items that you have, and then head to the mail center and then pick those items up there and then take them to your residential hall. So we have quite a few international students who are a bit worried about their flights potentially getting delayed and what it means for them to arrive on a bit earlier on the 25th instead of the 24th. So we understand that our students traveling internationally may experience delays in travel. Of course, we encourage all international students to arrive on the 24th. However, if they do arrive on the 25th, we can still check you in. You just might experience a few delays in your check-in. And I see that Justin wanted to answer a few questions live as well.
Yeah, just to talk about sort of bag drop day and check-in day. When we and because there are questions about elevators, and so I just want to kind of get to those as well. One of the reasons we do bag drop day is so that we don't have as many people trying to move all of these items in on one day. It's been very helpful in terms of generating a great experience for our students. Um, and so when we talk about bag drop day, there are people asking, how much time. It depends on the time slot you're assigned. What we try to do is make sure that we're able to get people, get you into the building, get your items where they need to go so that you can get set up, see your room, spend time with family as well. And when we're talking about the elevators, usually what happens during, August 24th and the Sunday, August 25th, the elevators are really being used to kind of help everyone get items in and get up to the floors. So there are instances where someone may be able to use an elevator. If you've got a family member that really can't take the stairs up to the eighth or seventh floor of a building, we can be flexible. But our recommendation is that if you're participating in bag drop, is to get all of your items in during your time slot on the 24th, because on the 25th, we have just as many students and items to move in. And so we want to make sure that we're able to help students as a whole have a great experience and not experience long delays and things like that. So on the 24th, if you are participating in bag drop, please make sure to bring all of the items that you want to move in so that you're not having to take the stairs or you're not having to experience delays because you're waiting for an elevator and you don't have an assigned time slot. And there's another question here about if we have a late check-in time, are we allowed to arrive early to eat? Absolutely. You're allowed to arrive to campus early. You're just not allowed to use sort of the unloading zones. You're not able to enter the buildings, get your ID ahead of time. So you're more than welcome to come to campus, spend time, visit the different organizations that set up tents. But just one of those things where you're not going to be able to pull into the unload zone until it's your assigned time, and you won't be able to check into the building as well until it's your assigned time.
And there are a lot of questions about what is potentially in a room. So each room is stocked with a desk, a set of drawers, either a closet or a wardrobe. There's also questions about the bathroom. So yes, the bathrooms are stocked with toilet paper for the suite style residential halls. So Carmen Hall, for example, there was a question about cleaning supplies. There's a bucket of supplies, and it is the expectation that the students, the suite mates, are using those supplies to clean their own bathrooms, and because it is the student's responsibility, and it does have a shower curtain.
Yeah, and so I see a couple questions as well about backdrop, if we've sent the notifications out, things like that. We have notified all students of their check-in time slots. So if you are an international student, we have assigned that time slot, sent an email. If you are a domestic student who never requested backdrop, you've received an email with your time slot. And then for the backdrop population, whether you've been approved or denied, you have also received an email with instructions and your time slot. All of this, of course, can be found in the portal, but if you have any questions about that, you're more than welcome to send an email to housing@columbia.edu so that we can follow up, get you answers to your questions. But all notifications related to bag drop, move-in times, and appointments have been communicated to students.
So there's a few questions I saw about renter's insurance. So we highly recommend all students get renter's insurance, whether that's through their parents' home company or through another renter's insurance company. It's not mandatory, but we do really recommend it. If something were to happen to your belongings, we want to make sure that you are covered.
And I've seen a couple questions as well about if international students are able to stay in the dorms on August 24th. Yes, international students are that's the only population that's allowed to stay in the dorms the night of the 24th. Students that have been approved for bag drop are able to, get their items moved in, unpack, but then at 4 p.m. Everyone who is there as part of bag drop must be out of the building, and only international students are allowed to stay in the building that night. The next day on the 25th, after you check in and you get your CUID, of course, then that room is yours. It's just that on the night of the 24th, only international students are allowed to stay.
Some students are asking about maybe purchasing some things upon their arrival. So there are a few stores next to campus that students do like to just go if they forget, if they want an extra pillow or if they want an extra blanket for their room, that they can. We are very close to Broadway Avenue, which does have a lot of local shops that you can pick stuff up if you realize, oh, I might have missed this item and you want to just add a few extra things to your room while you're here.
Yeah, and I see a question here about time restrictions during move-in, just to talk about this in general. The time that we assign for students, it's a 30-minute window. And that's, we're working with vendors, we're working to make, to try to get as many people and their items, into the elevators, up to their floors, try to do this as quickly as possible. So all of our times are 30-minute time slots. If you arrive outside of that time slot, we understand things happen. I see a question here about, hurricanes in the US, and I'll get to that in a second. Um, we understand that things happen. You may arrive 15 minutes late, you may arrive 2 hours late because of traffic or other things that are just out of your control. You, of course, can still arrive as long as it's in the hours of 8 and 4 p.m., where we will still have a team. It's just that we won't be able to get to you as quickly because of the way that our operations work. We are just, we assign that time slot with a 30-minute window because that's when we can kind of guarantee the fastest service for students. Now, as it relates to hurricanes, I'm from Louisiana, very familiar with this. If that happens and it impacts your travel, of course, we want you to be safe. Don't do anything because you feel like you have to get to Columbia at this time or else. Um, please arrive to Columbia safely. And if you get delayed, you can always reach out to housing at columbia.edu just to let us know that you're delayed so that we can then just give you different instructions. If you can't arrive on the 25th, you now need to arrive, say, on the 27th. We'll give you different instructions so that we can make sure that when you get to campus, you're able to get your CUID, get checked in, and get to your room and still have a smooth experience.
So again, going back to Justin mentioned the use of elevators. I do have a few students who are a bit concerned if they have family members maybe moving them in who have some accessibility needs. Of course, if you have accessibility needs and your family member needs to use an elevator, of course, we would allow those family members to use the elevator.
Yeah, and I just see some other questions coming in about flexibility around move-in times. It's one of those things where it's a very big operation when it comes to check-in. There are a lot of things that take place before you arrive. There's a lot of work that we do because obviously our goal is to make sure that you have a great experience getting moved in and you kind of forget that we exist. You show up at your check-in time, you're able to get your items up the elevator, and you're able to focus on getting moved in, spending time with your family, walking around campus, and that, we work so seamlessly that you kind of don't know all the work that we put into it. Um, so I say all that because there's not really much flexibility around the move-in times because that's everything from the, you know, us assigning which floors are going to be, we'll be moving students in based on a lot of different factors. So there's not much flexibility. Of course, you can reach out to us, but that just know that we may not be able to make accommodations to it because of all the factors that go into the operations for students moving in. I see a question here about a dorm being on the 15th floor. Can you use the elevator? Same as before. We if the team is able to to kind of get you in an elevator, you can let them know. Of course, if you have accessibility issues, just let the team know so that they can accommodate you. It's just that not everyone can use the elevator as you normally would that day because we have to get as many students and as many belongings into the building as possible. See another question here. How long do we have to unpack and get settled? It kind of depends on your time slot, right? So on the 24th, you have until 4 p.m. So if you're participating in backdrop, you have until 4 p.m. and then you have to leave the building just because that's when we have to resecure the building so that only people with a CUID are able to access it. Again, you'll get that ID and have access to the building on the 25th. Um, and then it's kind of the same thing on the 25th, right? We work to try to get as many students and belongings in. And once we're able to get those items in, you're able to take as much time as you want, but then naturally around 4 p.m. we do have to secure the building. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about the items and things that you want to try to get unpacked on that first day. Yeah, I see another question here real quick about the difference between backdrop day and move-in day. Yes, there is a very big difference. Bag drop day, you cannot stay the night. You will not receive your COID. You will not be allowed to stay the night. This is when you bring all of your items that you want to move in and you're able to get them all up to your room. If you have time to unpack, you're able to work on that. Of course, please fill out the survey and the RCR before you do that, just so that you're able to complete those steps. But you are not allowed to stay and you will not get your CUID that day. Move-in day is when you're able to get your CUID, stay in there, and really kind of make that place your home.
So I see a lot of questions regarding mini fridges. Columbia does have a policy with regards to mini fridges. So you can bring your own if you choose to, but there is a limit on the size of the refrigerator. So the limit is 2.5 cubic feet in volume for the refrigerators. And there were some questions about rental options too. We do partner with a vendor just to help with the delivery a little bit easier for you, called Microfridge. So if you go to our Columbia Housing website, you can see it under services, under refrigerators. You'll see the link to their website, and you would be renting essentially directly with them. And then from there, we essentially arrange the drop off with the vendor.
Yeah, and I've got a pretty peculiar question here. The question is, can international students continue bringing in packages on Sunday the 25th and use the elevator before 8 a.m. that day? I do not recommend this because naturally we're going to be setting up before 8 a.m. So if you have additional things that you would like to move into the building, I would highly recommend not doing it on the 25th, just because that day is going to be very busy. That's when our entire campus has to check in, aside from the international student population. Plus we'll have events going on. Plus we'll have family members going up to rooms. So I would just highly recommend not trying to. It's a great question and it's a great thought process. It's just one of those things where I just want to say that it's just not a great idea. I would highly recommend waiting until after the 25th, just because that day the elevators will be used before 8 a.m. as we prepare for our check-in day and moving the other students into the building.
I think also going along with what Justin was saying, if you're bringing a lot of belongings the first day and also the second day, just be mindful, especially if you have a roommate. We try to give each of our students about 100 square feet. So if you're sharing about 200 square feet or less with a roommate, you have to just be considerate of the person with how much belongings you're bringing.
Yeah, another question here. Are international students allowed to stay outside of campus with our families on the night of the 24th? Yes, you are more than welcome to. Uh, we just emphasize that the only students that are allowed to stay in their rooms, uh, after bag drop and move in on Saturday, August 24th, is our international student population. So you are more than welcome to not stay there that night. Naturally, there's some programming by some of our campus partners, but again, the only students that are allowed to stay in the building on the night of the 24th are the international students. Okay, and I think that is it for our Q&A section. Naturally, if you have a question that we didn't get to, or if you have if you have something else you'd like to follow up about, please feel free to send us an email to housing@columbia.edu. It is our job to make sure that you have as smooth of a check-in experience as possible. We're excited for you to be at Columbia. We want you to make Columbia your home, and anything we can do to support that, please just let us know. And with that, I think that is the conclusion of our session this morning. So we just want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to pass it off to my colleagues, Lorena and Minley now. I've talked enough, so I'm going to stop talking now.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you everyone for being here again. We had a lot of questions in the chat. We tried to get through as many as possible. So if there was a question that you had that was not answered in time, all of the information that I saw, I just couldn't type fast enough, unfortunately. It is on our website. And if you need to reference this recording, again, it'll be posted to the Countdown to Columbia website. So you'll be able to see this information again. If you missed a QR code, you want anything to follow up. And if there are questions that you don't find on either our website or the Countdown to Columbia site, you can always reach out to Columbia Housing. All of us work here and we have other folks as well. And we are here to support you and answer any questions that you may have. So I want to thank you all again for joining us today. And we look forward to welcoming you on campus.